सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्तमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। So after having discussed the glory of Mahatmas in developing devotion, Naradji takes up the topic of who crosses over Maya. So who crosses over Maya? So many factors are given. Those who gives up dussang, those who takes up satsang, those who listen to it carefully and get the message of it. Thus, those who give up all sense of mindness, nirmamo bhavati. This ahankara also is a type of mamakara. What is ahankara? Normally we say ahankara, mamakara. They go as a pair. Actually, this ahankara is also mamakara only. What is ahankara? Considering the body as mine is ahankara. Considering all the other possessions as mine is called mamakara. So in both these cases you have mamakara. So one term is used, nirmamo bhavati. How to practice? Now and then go into solitude. Meditate upon the nature of the world. Then lokabandham unmulayati. Thus he uproots his attachment towards the world. Nistraygunyo bhavati, becomes free from all worldly desires. Niryogakshemo bhavati, becomes free from all anxieties and worries about the future regarding the needs of the body. So he takes care of the mind, he makes the mind free from all kinds of agitation. How does he live in the world? He gives up all attachment to the results of the action. He gives up all the sense of doership with respect to action. Thus, nirdvando bhavati, becomes free from all dvandvas. Then, yo vedanapi sannyasati, the one who gives up even the Vedas, meaning one who practices the Jnana Kanda portion of the Vedas, where the knowledge is given the highest priority. Such a person, avichinna anuragam labhate, he will definitely gain that supreme, kevalam avichinna anuragam. Definitely he will gain the pure, the supreme, the unbroken, uninterrupted devotion unto Lord. Satarati, satarati, salokan starayati. Such a person, not only he crosses over, he helps others cross over. He becomes an instrument in the hands of the Lord to help others cross over this ocean of samsara. Now the next topic. What is the next topic? Naradji is not happy after defining what is devotion. Let us see verse number 51. Anirvachaniyam prema swarupam. Next one also. 52. Mukasvadanavata. Yes. So now again Naradji is trying to explain what is this bhakti. Earlier it has been explained already how Amrita Swarupa, then Paramaprema Swarupa, Paramaprema Rupa. This devotion is of the nature of infinite love for infinite period of time. Yallabdhva Puman Amrto bhavati, Trupto bhavati, Atmaramo bhavati, Stabdo bhavati, Matto bhavati, gaining which a person becomes contented, fulfilled, intoxicated, revels in the self. All these things have been explained. But still Naradji feels, I have not done justice to this supreme love. Now what does he say? Anirvachaniyam. This prema surupam, this love, this supreme devotion is absolutely inexplicable. It cannot be described. Though I have tried to describe it, but still I have not described it. He expresses his helplessness to describe what this love is. And so therefore he gives the simile, what is it? Mooka aswadanavat. Mooka aswadanavat. Like a mooka person. Mooka means dumb, who cannot speak. But then he has tasted something wonderful. He has had a very delicious food. Now this person wants to express the joy which he has experienced by having that delicious food. He wants to express that gratitude, that love, that taste, everything. What will he do? A dumb person. He will do so many things, but still he will not be able to explain. He doesn't find, in fact he can't speak. He can't speak. As far as this love is concerned, a similar experience is faced by the devotee who has experienced it. He wants to explain, he wants to express his happiness, but he doesn't have words to express it. Though he can speak, he doesn't have words. It's not that he will become a dumb fellow. What does it mean? He is not able to communicate it. Why is he not able to communicate? This joy is a very different joy which normally we have experienced. The joy which we have experienced is the joy of sense indulgence. This joy is different from that. We know the egoistic joys of winning, conquering, defeating, etc. This joy is different from that. We know the joy of fulfillment of desires in the world. This joy is different. We know the joy of material prosperity, accomplishments, awards, rewards, recognition. This joy is different. We also know the joy of slumber and sleep. This joy is different. Now, how are you going to explain them? If you want to explain something, you will have to compare it with something. Here there is no comparison. It is incomparable, therefore inexplicable. Mooka aswadanavat. It is incomparable because this is a joy where the experiencer of the joy becomes absent. The devotee melts in devotion and he becomes one with God. So then, when he experiences it, who will explain? As long as you have not experienced, you are there, experience is not there. But when you are experiencing it, experience is there, you are not there. It's a very strange thing. It is just like asking a person to explain sleep while in sleep. When you are there, sleep is not there. And when the sleep is there, you are not there. So who will explain? Ramakrishna Paramsa used to beautifully give an example. There was a salt doll which went to measure the depth of the ocean. Salt doll. So it went down. And what happened? Dissolved. Now who will explain? The salt doll has become one with the ocean. Now who will explain the depth of this ocean? This experience is also similar. In Tulsi Ramayana there is a beautiful episode. So Rama and Lakshmana had come to Janaka's palace. So in the morning they had gone to the gardens. In the very same garden, Sita Devi also had come to visit some temple. So there, the maids of Sita Mata, they come to see Rama. So this is just before the breaking of the Dhanush. So in the morning of the same day, so these maids see the beauty of Sri Ramchandra ji and they rush back to describe it to Sita Mata. And then these maids say, the eyes have seen it, but they are not able to explain. The tongue is able to explain, but they have not seen it. Such is the greatness. They were trying to explain the beauty of Bhagavan Ramchandra ji. This is the simile used. Anyway, the point here is, this bhakti is inexplicable, because there is no comparison in the world as to what it is. Really speaking, any language is a very, very inefficient tool to explain anything of this world. The language is a very inefficient tool. What is the taste of honey? Sweetness. What is the taste of sugar? Sweetness. You use the same term, but do you mean to say the sweetness both are same? How will you explain? You can't explain. Even if you are a great scholar, a great orator with lot of vocabulary skills, you will not be able to explain, isn't it? But still you are able to communicate, because what I have experienced, he has experienced. So therefore when I just indicate, he understands. But suppose you have to communicate something which the other person has not experienced at all, then what will you do? Then the language becomes useless. This is what is being said. This devotion, though I have tried in so many ways to explain it, but still it remains inexplicable. But then, though it is inexplicable, it is not unexperienceable. It can definitely be experienced. See the next verse. Prakashate kvapi patre. Yes. Though it is inexplicable, no doubt, but it can be experienced. Prakashate, it shines. This devotion, this supreme devotion, it shines. It expresses itself. Where? Kvapi patre. Patra means what? A vessel. A container is called patre. So here it means recipient. So where is this experience? So here patra means in some heart, because this love is experienced in the heart. In some heart, kvapi, in very rare few hearts, it expresses itself. In rare few people, this love is seen. Prakashate, it makes itself present in some rare few hearts. In some rare few people. Meaning, rare few people experience it. Now this kvapi is a very interesting term. Kvapi can mean some, kvapi can also mean any. So then we have two meanings here. Prakashate kvapi patre means in rare few this is seen, meaning number one. Meaning number two, in anyone it can be seen. Now see the, what you call, see the beauty of the sutra. Two different angles, two different meanings. Prakashate kvapi patre means this can be experienced by anyone. What is the condition? Mind has to be pure. This devotion can be experienced by anyone because Bhagavan is there in the hearts of all. The only condition necessary is making that mind prepared, purified. The example given is just like the sunlight. The sunlight is everywhere, but a stone is not able to reflect it. The mirror is able to reflect. Why? Not because of the difference in the sun, but difference in the surface. The surface which is highly polished, it is able to reflect. The other surface which is gross, it's not able to reflect. In the same way, Bhagavan is there in the hearts of all. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hruddeshe Arjuna tishtati. Bhagavan is there in the hearts of all, but very rare few people experience it, others don't. So what has to be done? You don't have to create Bhagavan, he is already there. The only thing you have to do is prepare the heart so that we can experience the Supreme Lord. Now again, Narad is trying to explain what the supreme devotion is. He is not satisfied. So therefore, again an attempt is made to describe this bhakti. Verse number 54. Gunarahitam Kamanarahitam Pratikshanavardhamanam Avichinnam Sukshmataram Anubhavarupam. Yes. So many terms are given. Again, an attempt is made to describe it, explain it. So many pointers are given. These are all the pointers which are very helpful for the sadhakas. So what is the first one? Gunarahitam. It is free from all kinds of gunas. So what are the gunas? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. One type of explanation can be given. This devotion has nothing to do with the gunas. It is a love, but it doesn't have the sattvic, tamasic, rajasic properties which normally we find in the world. So what is a tamasic love? Is a vulgar love that we see in the society. What is rajasic love? Romantic love is rajasic love. What is sattvic love? The parental love is sattvic love. But this love is different from all of them. Or another meaning is, guna means properties. In this society you will find varieties of loves. Parents loving their children, that love has a different flavor. Brothers and sisters, their love towards each other, that has got a different flavor. Grandparents' love for grandchildren, that flavor is different. Friends loving each other, that flavor. All of them we use the term love only, isn't it? But there is a different flavors for different love. This flavor is called guna. So gunarahitam means this is a very strange kind of love where these flavors are absent. This is a love where one loves one's own higher self. So this way it is gunarahitam. What's the second one? Kamanarahitam. This term had come earlier also. What did Naradji say? Sa na kamayamana. The same thing is here, kamana. Kamanarahitam means what? This love is such that it prevents you from desiring anything of the world. It doesn't allow kamana to spring up in the heart. It is of the nature of desirelessness. Normally, what is the nature of worldly love? It is the nature of desires. Worldly love makes you desire the world. Divine love makes you desireless. Why desireless? Desireless because you need not desire anything. Why you need not desire anything? Because what you need is already there. It is a very self in you. So you don't have to desire. It is already there. So this bhakti is of the nature of desirelessness. Kamana rahitam. Then pratikshana vardhamanam. Another beautiful term. Pratikshana vardhamanam. It is something which increases. Pratikshanam. Pratikshanam. Every moment. As you walk this path of divine love, as you practice devotion in your life, you will find this devotion starts increasing slowly. Devotion increasing means what? So there is another term is used, Sukshmataram. They both go together. Sukshmataram means it is of a subtler nature. As you advance in this path of devotion, slowly, as you start loving Bhagavan, mind becomes pure. As the mind becomes purer and purer, the mind also becomes subtler and subtler. Sukshma it becomes. Only such a mind which has become subtler is able to appreciate the subtlest love of Bhagavan. Bhagavan's love is very, very subtle. Even to appreciate is very difficult. There is a gross love, there is a subtle love. To appreciate subtle love is difficult, to appreciate gross love is easy. To give an example, to appreciate Bhagavan as a wish fulfiller is very easy. You ask something, Bhagavan gives, immediately that love comes. It is a gross love. Try to understand this. It's a subtle concept. When somebody is giving you what you ask, loving that person is very easy. It is gross. It is sthula rupam. But loving Bhagavan not as your wish fulfiller but as your well-wisher, it is difficult. It is little more higher. Because the moment Bhagavan becomes your well-wisher, sometimes he will have to give you pain. The question is, even when he gives you pain, are you able to love him? You are able to love him only if your love is of subtler nature. A gross person will immediately lose all his faith. Some calamity strikes and little whatever devotion was there, everything goes. Isn't it? He asked something from God, God did not give. Gone. His faith is gone. But now, subtler devotion means what? Even when the calamities come, even when the problems come, are you still able to love God with the same intensity, with the same faith? This is a challenge. This is really a challenge. This is called Sukshmataram. Are you able to understand? To appreciate God as your well-wisher is very difficult. To appreciate God as your wish fulfiller is very easy. But as you grow in the path, in this path of devotion, slowly, this love for God becomes finer and finer. It starts getting more and more refined. And what is a sign of refinement? Even amidst greatest tragedies and problems, your love remains intact. That is the glory of Kunti Mata. What was her prayer? Vipadas santu nashashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhavadarshanam. Bhagavan, give me more and more problems, more and more tragedies, because only during problems and tragedies I am able to pray to you from the depth of your heart. I really feel your presence in problems, in tragedies. So therefore, let they always be my companions. Now who has the courage to pray like this? Who has the courage? This devotion is something of the higher nature. Where greater the problems, greater the love for Bhagavan. Pratikshanam vardhamanam. It is like the fire, If the fire is very less and the wind blows, what happens? The fire is put off. But very same fire, when it is raging, blazing forth, and then when wind comes, the wind becomes a supporter of the fire. It makes the fire burn more and more. In the same way, when we have only a little love, the wind of tragedy blows, gone. But suppose that love is really, it has picked up. Really it has become deep. Really it has become intense. Then more and more calamities will help this devotion grow more and more. That is the nature of this love. Pratikshanam vardhamanam. So therefore you will find As you evolve in this path, tragedies, more and more tragedies will come. Bhagavan himself says in Bhagavatam, the person whom I want to bless, I will take away all the support system one by one. I will take away his money. He will strive hard to earn money. No, I will not allow him to succeed. And because he has no money, then all the relatives also will go away. And finally, when he has nobody, he will turn to my devotees, and there he gains devotion. This is one possibility. It's not necessary that everybody should go through this. Pratikshana vardhamanam sukshmataram. Just imagine the great saints, how many tragedies they had to face, but never once they said, Bhagavan, why did you do this to me? Never. Ramakrishna Paramsa did not even reach 60. He passed away because of some throat cancer or something. Ramana Maharshi also suffered. Jesus Christ suffered crucifixion. But then never did they blame God. Oh Lord, forgive them. They do not know what they do. This was his prayer. This is the climax of devotion. You are dying, but still you are loving. That's very strange. You are becoming non-existent, but still you continue to love. This is the climax of devotion. Nothing can stop. Therefore it is said, avichinnam, unbroken. This love cannot be broken. Tragedies come, but the love continues. This love is called unconditional love. There is no condition. And since there is no condition, the love continues. It continues unbroken. Avichinnam. Anubhava Rupam. If you want to understand it, any amount of theory will not do. It has to be experienced. Anubhava Rupam. It should come in our experience. It is something which has to be experienced. It is not something which has to be studied, by-hearted. No. So the point is this: as we grow in the path of devotion, slowly, slowly, the subtler nuances of devotion becomes revealed to us. The devotion also has got its own depth. Then, after gaining that, what happens? Earlier also it was described, but once again Naradji is describing it, but in a different way. Verse 55. Tat prapya tadeva avalokayati tadeva shrunoti tadeva bhashayati tadeva chintayati. Yes, tat prapya. Having gained that devotion, what happens to this person? This person becomes immersed in that love. And what are his expression? Tadeva avalokayati. He sees only that. Tadeva shrunoti. He hears only that. Tadeva bhashayati. He speaks only that. Tadeva chintayati. He thinks only and only of that. This is the transformation that happens when a person develops this kind of devotion. Now this is very easy to understand, because anything what you love intensely, your entire personality will start radiating that, reflecting that. This is natural. A mother and a newborn baby. Now this newborn baby, same thing is applicable. What will that mother do? Tadeva avalokayati, tadeva shrunoti, tadeva bhashayati. That mother will talk only about that, think only about that. Her entire personality is directed towards that little baby. Isn't it? Even when she is in the kitchen, one part of the mind is there in the cradle. So this is true with everything. A person who has won Olympics gold medal, same thing is applicable. All the time he will speak about his success stories. Isn't it? Everywhere he goes, he will think only that. If this is true with the worldly fields, then what to talk of spiritual field? Tat prapya, having gained that, tadeva avalokayati. They see only and only that. The world is the same, but what do they see? They see only Bhagavan. So what is the law? The law is, as your thoughts, so will be the world perceived by you. Simple law. This is true with everyone. It is not true only with Mahatmas. The only difference is Mahatmas see God, we see everything else but God. Right? The law is to whatever your mind is tuned, you see in the world. There is a beautiful Subhashitam which says, Sarvam dhanamayam lubdhaha kamuka kaminimayam narayanmayam dhiraha pashyanti paramarthataha. Pashyanti paramarthataha. These people see as though this is the only thing. What? Sarvam dhanamayam lubdhaha. A miser, a money-minded person, what does he see? Sarvam dhanamayam. Everything is money, 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 money. Everything money. Kamukaha kaminimayam. A lusty person. What will he see? He will see only lust everywhere. Narayanamayam dhiraha. The wise people, what do they see? The world is the same, but different people seeing different thing. Wise people, what do they see? Narayanamayam. Sarvam brahmamayam. This is what they see. So what do you see? So we have to ask ourselves, what am I seeing? If you are seeing anything other than God, then you have to correct your vision. And that is what the sadhakas do. So, what happens to these devotees? Tad prapya tadeva avalokayati. They see only this. If you read Bhagavatam, the gopis, their mind was totally tuned to Krishna. Mind was full of Krishna. And they wanted to serve Krishna in every way. And it is said, when they used to look into the world, they saw that every aspect of this world was trying to serve Krishna. Everything in this world. The birds, when they chirp, they felt as though they are all Rishi-munis singing the glories of Krishna. When they saw this green grass on the land, they felt that these grass, they are waiting to serve Krishna because his leg, his feet, they are so tender. So these grass, this is there in order to protect that tender feet of Bhagavan. So they are also waiting to serve Bhagavan. Now see that imagination. The Govardhana mountain with so many caves. These caves are waiting to give a resting place for Bhagavan. The streams that flow, they are flowing in order to quench the thirst of Bhagavan. The clouds that are carried by the wind, these clouds are as though trying to protect Bhagavan from that, hot sun rays. The Yamuna with all those waves lashing on the shore, these waves are trying to wash the feet of Bhagavan. This is how the gopis felt everywhere. Krishnamayam. Only Bhagavan they saw. Why they had such a feeling? I want to serve Bhagavan, so definitely everybody wants to serve Bhagavan. This was their feeling. Tadeva avalokayati. The very famous saint, Swami Ramdas, Papa Ramdas, Kanyangad Ashram, Ananda Ashram. So when he was doing tapas, so he was in one of the caves, constantly chanting Rama, 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 Rama. Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. That was his mantra. He was in a cave. So in the night, one person comes there. So he asked, may I also lie down here for the night? He said, why not? You are the embodiment of Rama. Everybody is an embodiment of Rama, so I am not seeing you anyone other than Rama. Rama himself has come, so please come. This cave is yours only. Now that person, so both of them, they were lying down. There were some fruits kept. So he asked, can I take that fruit? He said, take. Bhagwan is asking. Now this Ramdas was seeing only Bhagwan in that person. This person was a sadhu, the one who had come. He took the fruits also. Then he said, can I take that water pot? Take. Can I take that umbrella? Take. One by one, he took everything in that. That mat also was taken. Everything was, books were there. He took that also. And he packed in them some, gunny bag. Everything was taken. Only one langoti was there, which he was wearing. He said, remove that and give that also to me. And Ramdas, he was totally surrendered to Bhagwan. He said, Bhagwan is asking, here it is. The moment he was able to remove, he said, no, let it be there. Then he put everything, packed everything, and just left. Now here, in the cave, nothing was there. Everything completely polished off. Next day when the devotees came there, they saw that the whole cave, whatever actually the devotees only had given, everything was gone. And here, Ramdas was in Samadhi. Why Samadhi? Because of that total surrender unto Bhagwan. His mind had really merged with Bhagwan. Hours together, they were waiting outside. Because unless he comes down, how can they ask? Finally, after hours of waiting, he came back. And he was, brimful of bliss. Then they asked, Swamiji, who took away all this? He said, Ram gave, Ram took away. Then somebody said, definitely that sadhu, he is a thief, robber. He said, don't say like that. He is Bhagavan. He stopped that person from using such words. Immediately, of course, the devotees provided everything back. The point is this, Tadeva avalokayat. Even in a robber, even in a thief, what does he see? He sees Bhagavan alone. He is helpless. He cannot see anything other than Bhagavan. Tadeva avalokayati. Tadeva shrunoti. He listens only that. He listens only that means what? There was one incident in Gurudev's life. So camp was going on. So in the camp, after meditation, normally Gurudev used to have silence. And one old Amma started singing. Very old Amma. 85, 90 years old. Loudly she started singing. This was after meditation. Everybody was disturbed. Singing means what? In a horrible voice. Very difficult to tolerate. Everybody was looking at Gurudev. And Gurudev was silently sitting. After the whole thing was over, somebody came and asked, Swamiji, when that lady was singing, in fact, whoever was there in that meditation hall, everybody was disturbed. They were looking at this woman with a cursing look. If it is a good bhajan, fine, but it is terrible. Somebody asked later on, Gurudev, when this song was sung, when that lady was singing, what were you thinking? Gurudev said, my attention effortlessly went to that conscious principle, that enlivening principle, because of which that inert body-mind was able to function. I was not hearing to that song, but my attention was upon that consciousness principle which was enlivening this woman to sing. So where was the mind? Mind was not in bhajan, etc. Mind was upon God, because of which an inert BMI is able to function. So this is called as Tadeva Shrunoti. There's a very nice story. A person was seated for meditation. Early morning again, rainy season, and the frogs started croaking. Now he was a very, is advanced sadhaka with lot of supernatural powers. So he went to the window because it was making so much of noise. He said, "Quiet! Silence!" And all these frogs became silent. He again sat for meditation. And as he soared in meditation, there was some conscience prick which was disturbing him. So then he heard the voice of God. The voice of God said, "Just like you want to contact me, just like you want to pray to me, don't you think they also have the right to pray to me?" And when this thought came to his mind, they also have the right to pray, just like I have the right. His eyes were filled with tears of regret. He again goes back and says, "Start." And these frogs again started croaking. So in that croaking of the frog also, what do you hear? If your mind is tuned to Bhagavan, you see Bhagavan everywhere. Everywhere. That samskara is reflected everywhere. Tadeva shrunoti. Tadeva bhashayati. He speaks that alone. Sanakadi Rishis do this. How to spend time? So the Sanakadi Rishis, Sanak, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, 4. They are all mind-born sons of Brahmaji. As far as the body is concerned, 5 years of age, totally naked. They roam around. And what do? Constantly chanting Bhagavan's name. And whenever time permits, they all sit together. One person will do satsang. And the other 3 would listen. After some time, the one will stop, the other will start. Tadeva bhashayati. So they spent their time constantly speaking of Bhagavan. Tadeva bhashayati. What does Naradji do, the author of this book? Going to all 14 worlds with Veena in one hand and seeing the glories of Bhagavan. So this is what these people do who have attained to that kind of devotion. Nothing else interests them. Anandamayima, a great saint, she used to say, "Hari katha so katha, baki sab vyatha." Hari katha so katha. Real katha is Hari katha only. Rest everything is vyatha. It is nothing but sorrow. Tadeva bhashayati, tadeva chintayati. They think of that and that alone. Tadeva, eva means that alone. What happens if they don't think about that? Tad vismarane parama vyakulata. We have studied earlier. The moment they forget Bhagavan, then there is tremendous amount of misery. So therefore, effortlessly, spontaneously, they think of that and that alone. Tadeva chintayati. In fact, tadeva chintayati, therefore all the other things happen. As your thought, so will be the word, so will be the action, so will be the habit, character, everything. Everything starts from thoughts. So because their thoughts are saturated with Bhagavan, whatever they do, everything has that touch of divinity. Okay, then what? Now the topic changes. What is the next topic? Next topic is, till now we have seen the highest devotion. So Naradji, do we have devotion at the lower levels also? Because you have never come down. All the time remaining there. So do you mean to say we are not devotees? So therefore now Naradji takes up the lower levels of devotion also. That is the topic. Verse number 56. Gauni tridha guna bhedat artardi bhedatva. Yes. So now this is called as Gauni Bhakti. Gauni means secondary, inferior, lower. So what is said here? This inferior love, inferior devotion is of three types. Tridha. Three types. And it can be classified based on Guna Bhedat. Classification number 1 based on Gunas. Artardi Bhedatva, or it can have another classification based on Artha, etc. Beginning with Artha. So two types of classification. So what is this Guna Bhedat classification based on Gunas? So first one is Sattva Guna, Sattvic Bhakti. Second one is Rajasic Bhakti. Third one is Tamasic Bhakti. Three types of Bhakti. So what is Sattvic Bhakti? This is the highest form of Bhakti. Not the highest. We are talking of lower. So here a person is a sadhaka. He is not a jnani. So what is he practicing? He is trying to practice that pure form of devotion with vairagya, etc. Not asking anything from God. What does he ask? Bhagavan, give me only love. This is what I ask. So this kind of devotees, they are sattvic devotees. They don't want anything material from Bhagavan. They are called as sattvic bhaktas. Such a bhakti is called sattvic bhakti. What is Rajasic Bhakti? In Rajasic Bhakti, this person wants so many things. Name, fame, power, position. Then that is Rajasic Bhakti. You are asking for some material gain. Then what is Tamasic Bhakti? Tamasic Bhakti is neither you want any gain, nor are you craving for some kind of devotion. What you want is harming others. This is Tamasic Bhakti. Harming others. All those people who do black magic, etc. They are also bhaktas only. They are also devotees. They also pray to God. But for what? To harm others. So they have all this kind of, blood as naivedyam, cremation ground there, and sitting on a dead body and all those kind of things. That is also a bhakti, but it is Tamasic Bhakti. Animal sacrifice will be there. So these are the three types of bhakti. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Here we are talking of only Gauni Bhakti, not the highest. Highest has been described. This is based on Gunas. What is the other one? So Artardi. So what are the three types? Artha Bhakti, Jitnyasu Bhakti, and Artharthi Bhakti. That's how the order is given in Bhagavad Gita. Arto Jitnyasur Artharthi Jnani cha Bharatarshava Chaturvidha Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritino Arjuna. Arto Jitnyasur Artharthi Jnani cha Bharatarshava. 4 types of people worship me. So who are they? Number 1, Artha Bhakta. Second one, Jitnyasu Bhakta. Third one, Artharthi Bhakta. So he is an Artha Bhakta. He has a lot of problems, affliction. So therefore he is praying to God. Bhagavan, solve my problems. Then comes Jitnyasu Bhakta. Who is a Jitnyasu Bhakta? He wants to know God. He also worships Bhagavan. He is a seeker, sadhaka, Jitnyasu Bhakta. And the third one, Artharthi Bhakta. He wants all the material prosperities. Artha, Jitnyasu, Artharthi. And the first one was Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. So these are the 2 classification of 3 types of bhakti. So now, Bhagavan, which is greater in these 3? That is the next verse. Verse number 57. Uttarasmad Purva Purva Shreyaya Bhavati. Yes. Uttarasmad Purva Purva Shreyaya Bhavati. Compared to the Uttara, succeeding ones, Purva, the preceding ones are higher. So there is a gradation in these 3 also. So we have Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. So what is said here? Compared to the succeeding ones, the preceding ones are higher. So, Sattvic Bhakti is the highest, Rajasic is the lower, Tamasic is the lowest. SRT. Sattvic is the highest. But then what about the other one? So, if this is the order, Artha Bhakti, Jitnyasu Bhakti, Artharthi Bhakti. So, which is the lowest one? Artharthi is the lowest one. The one who asks for something. Now here, since they have given this order, we have to stick. Normally, according to explanation, we say, Artha Artharthi Bhakta. They are considered to be the lower. Jitnyasu Bhakti is considered higher. But since this order has been given here, Uttarasmad, Purva, Purva. So we have to use the same order. So now our explanation has to be little different because this order has been given. So who is the lowest one? Anyone who asks anything from Bhagavan. Bhagavan, I want this, I want that. He is the lowest one. It's a business for him. Bhakti is a business. I pray, you give. People do business also. Bhagavan, if this much profit I get, this much percentage is yours. And Bhagavan listens also. In the beginning, that's how Bhagavan attracts all these devotees. He gives. And then this fellow's faith also increases. All the rush in the Tirupati is all this type of people only. 99%. So much of rush is there in the temple means what? It simply means Bhagavan is encouraging. Even the Artha Bhakta also, what is that? Artharthi Bhakta also Bhagavan encourages. Slowly, he tightens the nuts and bolts. That's a different matter. But in the beginning, he encourages. Anyway, so the lowest bhakta is of this type. He wants something from Bhagavan, therefore he goes to Bhagavan. That is called as Artharthi Bhakta. Higher than that is Jitnyasu Bhakti. Who is a Jitnyasu Bhakta? He doesn't want anything from God, but he wants knowledge. He has a lot of questions in the mind. He is a seeker. He is a sadhaka. He has understood that Bhagavan alone can put an end to all my sufferings and miseries. Any amount of these worldly things are not going to satisfy me. The person who has understood this and who is doing sadhana is called a Jitnyasu Bhakta. But then according to this order, higher than Jitnyasu Bhakta is Artha Bhakta. Now how to explain this? Artha Bhakta is a person who just can't wait. As far as a Jitnyasu Bhakta is concerned, he has some plan. Okay, this lifetime I have kept for this. Someday this will happen. But as far as an Artha Bhakta is concerned, he is like a fish out of water. Bhagavan, I can't wait. I want it now. If there is such a Bhakta who wants Bhagavan urgently and immediately, he is like a fish out of water, then that devotee is the highest. Another example given is like the jata which has caught fire. Just imagine a person who has a big jata and that jata has caught fire. What will be his first priority? Will he say, let it burn for some time? No. Isn't it? It will be miserable. This is the condition. Tad vismarane paramavyakulata. That paramavyakulata, that is called as Artha Bhakti. Becomes miserable. If such a state is there, then that is the highest. Jitnyasu Bhakta he doesn't have that urgency. Though he wants it, but that urgency is not there. But in Artha Bhakti, there is that urgency. Therefore, that becomes highest. Greater the Tivrata, greater is the Shigrata. How intense is your longing for God? That intense, that quick becomes grace. How intense is our longing, that quick, grace also descends. So that's why that story, somebody asked Swami Vivekananda, when will I realize God? So Swami Vivekananda said, come with me. He took him to one river. Now Swami Vivekananda was strong. He just caught hold of his collar, pushed him inside water, kept him there for some few seconds, took him out. Then asked, what was your thought when you were inside? He said, my only thought was, when will I come out? Yes. When you feel that kind of urgency, that moment, you will realize God. This is called as Artha Bhakti. Okay, so now that topic is also over. Gauni Bhakti is over. Now, new topic. What is this new topic? Next topic is how this bhakti is very, very easy to practice. This path of bhakti is very easy to practice. Verse number 58. Anyasmat saulabhyam bhaktau. Anyasmat, compared to all the other paths, saulabhyam, it is very, very sulabham, very, very easy. Which path? Bhaktau, in bhakti. In bhakti, it's very easy. For the majority of the people, it is true. Bhakti is very easy. Why is it easy? Bhakti is a language of love. And is there anyone who has not experienced love? No. So since, in fact, even the animals can understand this language, which is the language of love. Reason number one. Reason number two. Now these are all the reasons given by the Mahatmas in the Puranas. Reason number two. This is the only path where you are not asked for any qualification. What is the qualification to develop bhakti? Sorry, we don't have any qualification. Anyasmat, compared to others. What about Jnana Marga? What is the qualification? Oh, big list is there. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam, Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam. Once you have gained it, then only you have entry into the path of knowledge. What about bhakti? Bhakti is meant for everyone. There is no qualification at all. Man or woman, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, old man, young man, children. Dhruva, Prahalada and all were children. They became masters. Gajendra was an animal. Amazing. Ramana Maharshi had a cow, Lakshmi. Ramana Maharshi himself said that this cow has already attained Bhagavan. Amazing. I think that cow left his body at the feet of Ramana Bhagavan. At that time, Bhagavan said, she has already reached. We just don't know what all kinds of beings are here. I am told that this cow used to listen to the satsang happening there. It would come and peep through the window. So as far as bhakti is concerned, no qualification. For all the other paths, qualification is there. Karma if you have to do, mantras have to be known, rituals, all those things you have to know. Whereas in bhakti, no such is needed. Even if you chant Bhagavan wrongly, the name of Bhagavan, Bhagavan is pleased. No qualification. In the Yoga Marga, yes, you must have a good healthy body to do pranayama, yoga, etc. In bhakti, even that is not needed. So that's why there's a beautiful verse by Prahalada to all the Asura Balakas. He was taking class. In the Gurukula, Prahalada was taking class for the Asura Balakas. Whenever the Shanda Amarka was absent, they were absent. Shanda Amarka, they are the Gurus, sons of Shukracharya, who used to take class in that Gurukula of Hiranyakashipu's, this thing. So whenever they were absent, Prahalada would take class. And all the children would gather, Asura Balakas, children of these Asuras. And to them he would take class. At what class? Pure bhakti only. So there's a beautiful verse which says, Nalam dvijatvam devatvam rishitvam basuratmajaha Prinanaya mukundasya navrittam na bahutnyata na danam na taponejya na shaucham na vratani cha priyate malaya bhaktya hariranyat vidambanam. Oh my dear friends, as far as this bhakti is concerned, nothing is needed. Nalam dvijatam, you don't have to be a brahmana. Devatvam, you don't have to be devatas. Rishitvam, you don't have to be a rishi. Prinanaya mukundasya, to please Bhagavan. Navrittam, profession is not important. Whatever be your profession, it's of no importance. Na bahutnyata, you don't need to be a scholar. Na dhanam, you don't have to give lot of money in charity, not necessary. Na tapo, tapas, austerity is not needed. Na ijya, lot of rituals, homa, havana, no, not necessary. Na shaucham, lot of purity of the external body, that is also not necessary. Na vratani, so many wars, difficult wars, nothing necessary. Then what is necessary? Priyate amalaya bhaktya hariranyat vidambanam. Bhagavan is pleased with pure love. Can you love Bhagavan with a pure heart? That's all what is necessary. Rest everything is vidambanam, hypocrisy only. What is needed is love. What is needed is pure love. And this is the same message of Bhagavad Gita also. Patram pushpam phalam doyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uprahritam asnami prayatatmana. Whatever you offer, patram, leaf, pushpam, flower, phalam, fruit, toyam, water. But what is important? Not what you offer, but with what attitude you offer. What you give is not important. What is important is the attitude. Yome bhaktya, with love. Tadaham bhakti upahurtam. That which is given with love, I eat. I take. So what is most important here? Just loving. There's a very nice Subhashita which says, Tulasi patrena jalasya chulukena cha vikrinite swamatmanam bhaktebhyo bhaktavatsalaha. This Bhagavan is very strange. He's a bhaktavatsalaha. He loves his devotees so much that you can purchase Bhagavan. How? Tulasi patrena, one leaf of tulasi. Jalasya chulukena, one handful of water. Vikrinite swamatmana. Bhagavan sells himself off to the devotees. Nice way of presenting. Bhagavan exchange offer. You give me one leaf and I give myself to you. But then how should that leaf be given? Bhakti. So therefore we say this path has no qualification. Can you love Bhagavan? Then you are most qualified. This is another reason. Now another reason. What is another reason? This path is very, very easy because what is needed in this path is surrender, humility, egolessness, love, and these are all very, very natural to a person who just pays attention to the whole world and his existence in this world. These are very natural. To become humble, is it difficult? The world is designed in such a way to make us humble. What is our power? Nothing. When we look at ourselves, we come to know that we are insignificant creatures. So when we understand our worth, the insignificant worth of our existence in this world, surrender becomes natural, humility comes naturally, egolessness becomes our nature, and loving that Bhagavan who is constantly giving becomes very easy. Bhagavan gives and forgives. So to love such a Bhagavan, is it difficult? So the world is designed to love Bhagavan. World is designed to make our surrender easy. Then why surrender is difficult? We don't pay attention to the realities of life. That is a problem. Anyone who pays attention to the realities of life can never become egoistic. Impossible. No way. You can't take credit for anything. Ego is boosted when you take credit. But when you have nothing to take credit for, how can the ego get the boosting. So therefore, since these are the things which is needed in bhakti, it becomes easy. And this is one path where, there is another reason. This is one path where a person who is really practicing bhakti can never become egoistic. Whereas other paths, anyasmat, in other paths, there is all the possibility of increase of ego. A person studies scriptures, there is the ego of knowledge. A person does selfless service, there is the ego of seva. I gave so much, that ego comes up. A person does yoga abhyas, that also can increase ego. I know so many complicated asanas and pranayama which others cannot do. I can flex my muscles, my body, twist it, turn it, and show it to others that I am great. So these are all the ways in which the ego grows. Even a vairagi can have the ego that I have given up everything. But what about bhakti? In the beginning itself, Bhagavan, I am a nobody. You have to start with a nobody. You start with being a nobody, you end becoming a nobody. So throughout this bhakti sadhana, there is nobody. Isn't it? Therefore it is easy. You are safe. As long as you are flat on the ground, there is no fear of fall. Who falls? The one who tries to stand up, walk, he falls. But suppose you are all the time flat. Bhakti is that path. All the time you are at the feet of Bhagavan or at the feet of Mahatmas. Bas. Safe. Nobody dares to pinpoint any negativity in Hanumanji. You may find negativity everywhere in everyone, but have you ever heard of any story? Some negativity of Hanuman? No. Why? Ever at the feet of Bhagavan. This is another reason. There is another reason why bhakti is great. Bhakti is simple. In this, your responsibility is taken care by Bhagavan. Yes, bhakti is a unique path. Whose responsibility it is to see that the devotee crosses over the ocean of Maya? Whose responsibility? It is not devotee, it is Bhagavan's responsibility. He makes it very clear in Gita. Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha mai aveshita chetasam. I lift them. And see the term used. Samudharta. Samyak utharta is samudharta. Very carefully. With lot of tenderness. With lot of love. With special care and attention. I lift my devotee from the ocean of samsara. Like the mother cat lifting the kitten carefully, holding somewhere here. That scene is so sweet. The mother cat finding a place for the kitten. In olden days and all, we used to have this scene very often. In the flat culture, everything is gone. Olden days, you will find old home, especially near that hearth where the cooking happens. The warm place that mother cat places. Or in some terrace, some cardboard box, inside that thermocol, these kittens are kept. Isn't it? So how carefully that mother takes care of the child. It is not the responsibility of the cat to take care of itself. Kitten. It just only know meow, meow, meow. Bas. Mother's responsibility. How to keep my children safe. So therefore in bhakti, entire responsibility falls on Bhagavan. Unlike the other paths. Therefore, bhakti is easy. And another important reason about bhakti is, without this bhakti, which is love, all the other sadhanas become dry. Jnana becomes dry without bhakti. Karma becomes dry without bhakti. Yoga abhyas become dry without bhakti. What gives interest is love. Love is one thing which makes everything interesting. That is one unique feature about bhakti. Bhakti is easy because in these varieties of relationships are possible. You have lot of varieties. In jnana there is no variety. You have to meditate on that consciousness and full stop. Give me another, no another, only one self. What about bhakti? Arre, varieties. North Indian, South Indian, Chinese, Mexican, everything is available. What kind of relationship you want, you can develop. You can see Bhagavan as your mother, as your father, as your beloved, as your master, as your child. Vatsalya Bhakti is also there. Some devotees want to see Bhagavan as their child. That is also available. My God, see the varieties. And there are so many leelas where you can revel and revel and revel. So many stories are there. Leelas are there. And for the alambana, for a support of the mind, there is this form of Bhagavan. As far as jnana is concerned, no form. So 12th chapter, Bhagavan himself says, Kleshodhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhi avapyate. Kleshaha adhikatara. People who try to meditate on this consciousness and all, kleshaha adhikatara. It's difficult compared to this path. And it is true. When Totapuri saw Ramakrishna Paramahamsa going into Samadhi, he was stunned. He said, what? That which took me 40 years to practice, this boy did it in 3 days. Totapuri, the guru of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, was stunned. This is the glory of bhakti. Apichet suduracharah bhajate mamananya bhag. Even if the person is a rank holder in all crimes, sinner number 1, suduja, bhajate mam. If he worships me, bas, finished. See? On one side, jnana asks for sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. What does bhakti ask? Even if you are a rank sinner, come to me. So very many times this bhakti is compared like a mother. Like how that mother cleans up the child. The child is so dirty, but mother takes up and cleans up the child. In the same way, bhakti also. No, the bhakti is such a path, amazing it is. Like a mother only. How that cow licks and cleans that calf. That's the example given normally. In the same way, bhakta has got so many impurities in the form of vasanas, kama, krodha, raga, dvesha. This mother bhakti cleans everything and makes a wonderful child. And then presents that child to Brahman. Brahman is the father. Bhakti is the mother. So then what does Brahman do when he sees that wonderful child? That father Brahman lifts that child and places on his lap. This is Aham Brahmasmi. So Bhakti Mata prepares the child for Aham Brahmasmi. It's a glory. So therefore don't take this path lightly. But now whatever reasons I have given, that is not the reason which Naradji is going to give. He is going to give another reason. That we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave Asato Ma Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om